Good evening, everyone. For our friends on the screen, can you hear us okay? This is by way of thumbs up. Okay, good or naughty. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order. The Weston Opportunity Partnership Board, Monday, January 27th. It's 4:35 Eastern Time. I am not Dr. Mary Milliner, but I am pleased to fill in for her this evening as our chair has been unable to be with us this evening. And our vice chair has been called to the University of Louisville. He hopes to join us in progress, but it may not be until after 5 p.m. Since we're lacking a quorum at this time, we're going to go ahead and do a quick voice roll call and move past the meeting minutes approval, and we'll come back to that. Rita, do you want to take our roll call?
Got it right here. Sharon Allen. Alicia Burns. Dr. Douglas Craddock. Jennifer Hancock. Tammy Hawkins.
Present.
Secretary Keith Jackson.
Present.
I left Jessica on here. I need to take that off. David Snarden, Reverend David Snarden. Deputy Mayor David James.
Here.
Darlene Johnson Jones.
Present.
Dr. Gabriel Jones. Dr. Mary Milliner. Mike Nagel. Lyndon Pryor. Oh, that's right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no. it was
Doctors
on
told
me.
me not to say that.
Yeah, that's me. Yes, that was on me. Okay, sorry. Christopher Romaine.
Here.
Desmond Smith Jr. Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Okay, I've already called Reverend Snarden. Summers the fifth. Gary Williams. Secretary Jeff Noel.
Here.
Jeff O'Brien.
Here.
I think we've covered everybody.
Thank you. We will wait for one more person to arrive to have a quorum.
We need one for quorum.
So we'll be monitoring that. We're going to move ahead, though, to the public comments portion of this meeting, and we have set aside 5 to have 3 minutes each, either in person or virtually, to share with us this evening.
Oh, that's Chris with crowd.
Okay.
Are you on the line?
Take a minute to see if we have participants online.
That's me. If there are any hands up here.
Okay. I'm seeing no one in the room or virtually that has expressed interest in a public comment. We'll move on. We now have our president and CEO's report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple of quick updates before we get into the meat of our discussion this afternoon. We have an African American cultural event. I know that many are familiar with this document. It had been put together by Mr. Walter Hutchins for a number of years. You may remember that he passed away in 2022, but the calendar has been put together again this year, and it's in his honor. And every African American History Month event in the city of Louisville is here in the document. On the inside cover, you'll notice an advertisement from the partnership. We're one of the sponsors of the booklet this year. We went ahead and obtained a number of copies, and we have them available in the office. So for all of our neighborhood reps, if you want copies after this meeting, please see Rita and get as many copies as you want.
100 copies. in our neighborhoods, and Lisa is putting them together now.
And so what you will be able to do is just think about what locales in your community you think would be important to leave these calendars with, or any particular people. Other reps, if you're not a neighborhood rep, you can also get some if you've got locales that you think would be helpful to leave these. Other than I want to remind you that the agreement, remember we distributed this, I think was in our last meeting. We need you to go ahead and sign that document and turn it in. If you have misplaced your copy of the document, Rita has an extra or some extras, and we can print one out for you. So please, before you leave today, sign that document.
Anybody need?
We are to have really good conversations with Travis Fox and the folks at Cornerstone Engineering regarding the applications for funding. And Travis is prepared to do an update for us on that. But before we do that, we want to pause for a minute and let our friends from Crow do a report. They're on a rather tight setting in short order, but we think it'd be important for you to hear directly from them. And they are making a habit of being at each of the board meetings and sitting in the room with you. So there isn't any delay in your opportunity to ask questions or to get information directly from them. So take it away.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, I'm Justin Harris from Crow. I'm joined by my colleague Stevia Smith Watkins joining us. Just to update, Blackbaud, the accounting system, as many of you know, the partnership has their own subscription. So myself, Stevia, Rita, we've been meeting with that team to do onboarding. Next, we'll be meeting with them this week to do an implementation call and try to find out, how long it's going to take to get that old data over from Community Ventures and Otis Group. So that we have all that records over, and then we can start, doing your financials and market reporting. More to come on that. Also on the budget, we're still working on that. That's still ongoing. Currently, the hold up is the TIF funding, which we're still waiting to get. So right now, we've just been, we've taken averages of expenses from 2024 to kind of build out the 2025 budget. Well, that's where we are with that. There should be more changes to come with that as we get more information.
Any questions for our friends from Pro? Okay, let's move ahead then. Travis, can you lead us through a discussion about the applications for funding and where we are? Let me remind the board that this is a process that's being handled by the Finance Committee. But any board member is welcome to attend the Finance Committee so that you can get the information when it's hot off the presses, so to speak. And just as a reminder, when each of these requests for funding gets to the point where they've met all of the benchmark that this board established and said it wanted to see in the applications, the representative from the neighborhood where the proposed project is located be invited to the finance and participate in that discussion. But in truth, anybody on the board can attend the finance committees and get these reports and participate in the discussion. Just let Rita know when we can be connected. So Travis, are you ready?
Yes, how's everyone doing today? We're going to go through a few different documents for you guys today. First, we're going to share our CRM. That's what we're using to track some of the applicants. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes.
All right. So just to give an update on the program stats, right now there's 14 applicants in the system. Since the last time we met with this board, There's 9 applicants that have been added, 5 of those applicants that are in place are small business applicants, 7 are nonprofits, and 2 are utilizing the traditional enterprise RFP. Far as funding request range, it's anything from 30,000 to 9.5 million. We also have been in talks with 5 separate entities that are going to apply, so that they're in our pipeline now that we've had preliminary meetings with them. They should be applying soon. As far as community resources to help some of these organizations become capital investment ready, we've reached out to several resources. There are 2 that we're actively working with as far as developing MOUs that will be approved by this board to work with them as far as getting the applicants capital investment ready, that is. Thus far, of the applicants we have 1 from the California neighborhood, 1 from the Parkland neighborhood, 1 from the Portland neighborhood, 4 from Russell, 4 from Shawnee, and 3 that are doing business in the 9 neighborhoods of the West End, but have not picked a actual location just as of yet, but they have applied. We're gonna work our way backwards here. For the traditional enterprises, there's both our grant requests. One is for a grant of 2.5 million. The other is for $650,000. They've gone through the application process. They've been scored. They've been asked to turn in several different types of documentation. And then at some point that will be presented whether or not they would be considered for funding by your group, by the partnership itself. As far as some of the nonprofits, again, that range is from 30,000 to 9.5 million. They all have been in the form of a grant. I went through the different neighborhoods they were in with you guys earlier. Each one of them has been scored. We have a range of scores anywhere from 76 to 99. We have 1 that hasn't been scored. That's because they have an illness going on with the family. So as soon as they're ready to move forward, we'll move forward with them as well.
Travis, we're having a little, a hard time hearing you. You're breaking up just
Yeah,
a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I don't
I'm
know.
sorry. Let me see. Okay, because I am on the Wi-Fi. I tell you what, let me stop sharing for a second here. And I am going to, can you all give me just like 30 seconds and I'll relocate and connect back up and jump right back on?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We have 4 now, if we want to approve minutes in that 30 seconds.
Welcome, Dr.
Use every
Jones.
second
Thanks
you
for
got.
helping us meet quorum tonight. We'll take a look at the meeting minutes from our December meeting, and I'll let you review those, but hoping that someone's prepared to make a motion. Thanks. Is there a second? Excellent. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passed. Thank you.
Wait on the 30 second financial. Do y'all have finance degrees or economics degree?
County.
County.
I have my bachelor's and a master's
Mhm.
and a CPA.
I got a niece.
Okay.
Yeah. What the job is.
What year is she at?
She's in a final year at Middlebury College
Okay.
in Vermont.
On my camera, so just cut off some of the bandwidth. And okay, can everyone hear me okay?
That's great now.
Okay. All right, so where we left off at, we were talking about the nonprofits that had applied for funding. Again, those different neighborhoods that they're located in, several different type of business structures. All of the nonprofits that have requested funding have been in a grant form, and as Laura mentioned earlier, we're going through the process with them. We're going through the process with them to compile certain documentations, project plans, construction plans, budgets, timelines, and so forth, and some of their financial documentation to ensure that they're capital investment ready. Now we're going to move on to the small businesses. Again, you see those neighborhoods that we mentioned earlier. There's been requests from 50,000 to 350,000. All are in the form of loans, different type of business structures. Each have been scored, and again, we're compiling some of that documentation from them as well. And we'll just give you a overview shot of what some of that documentation is and where they're at. So when it comes to the concerns of the project itself, with some of the nonprofits, some of the questions that are being asked is have they developed their board of directors? Have they received any grants in the past? Is it accessible, the project itself, to public transportation, credit information, job creation, 501c3, bank information? Then we move on to their federal tax exemptions, their state tax exemptions, their EIN numbers, company bylaws being developed, and their licenses and permits that are required for whatever type of organization they are. We ensure that they have that, and if they don't have that, we request them to get it. Then with the small businesses, we ask if they have any type of certifications, whether that be MBE, WBE, or DBE. Thus far, none of the businesses have come forth with having any of that information. Have they received loans in the past? Are they registered with the state? Do they have their tax ID? Again, that public accessible to public transportation. Are they willing to engage in the community give back program? Do they know their credit score, business website, business bank account, and so forth? And again, as I stated, we're currently in talks with 2 resources that can help some of these organizations become capital investment ready. And we have 5 more beyond the 14 that are already in the pipeline that are prepared to go into the pipeline. I mean, actually submit their applications. We're having talks with them as well. And all of this information will be in a shared file. And if any of you want access to that file, feel free to reach out and request access from Rita, and she'll reach out to us, and we'll make sure that you get access to the files. Do y'all have any questions?
Councilwoman, yeah, I have a question.
Hey Travis.
How are you today, Tammy?
Um, so, I'm not quite sure, or maybe this, but is this, I got a call in my office last week about that this was possibly gonna turn into a loan program. Was that discussed with any of the, anybody? Cause it was just a call in my office. They said it was a suggestion that, that was gonna come to us, that this be turned into a loan program or something like that.
Well,
I think I said,
yeah, from the directives that we've received from the finance board, there may be some grant opportunity there, but those large requests that are coming through, we're given directives that those should be loans of some form. Now, there hasn't been any terms put out there as far as what that term should be for the loan. So what I've been requesting that applicants do is, if they're asking for a large sum of money, is that they treat the request as if they were on the other side of the table, and that they weren't, their job was to ensure that this fund was sustainable and to make the terms favorable for both parties. So, and I think it was wise that the partnership didn't put out blanket terms, because I think every situation is unique, and what every one of these organizations bring to the community is different. So in saying that, I think that having them come up with those terms, and then you all vet the organizations as far as the information that we give to you, and then it can be modified from there, or you may be agreeable with, whatever they submitted.
I mean, let me also add that at the uh, meeting, when Travis and his group finished doing their report, there were some board members that did express concern that there were large dollars being sought, like 1.5 million or more, and that the requester was characterizing that as a grant rather than a loan. So there was a discussion at the last board meeting regarding what's more for those large. But recollect that this body approved traditional project lending, small business lending, and grants. So there is a grant component. And the grant component developed out of the concern that many of those folks who attended the neighborhood meetings already some good that were doing things in the community, and that they just needed a little more boost. So grants will be part of this program. The issue is whether or not some of those grants that have come in should be appropriately characterized as grants or loans.
And Tammy, for my perspective, look, we got 30, and we got $30 million to make sure that we create
Huge impact, I get that.
huge impact and sustainability. And from a standpoint, we can't, and from my perspective, we can't be making, a lot of grants are, I don't know how we get a return on that from creating sustainability for this organization, and to make sure that we're able to create job opportunities, communities that we're serving. So, I'm, this is, from my perspective, it's not just a grant organization.
And I think the person that talked to you also called me. And I told that person that, we're not in the business of grants, we're in the business of sustainability, and that if they had a business like they continue of us, we need to figure out what that is.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not a it was really just an open question. Like I don't disagree with it. I just needed to know. So I could definitely give that information flow, because I am out in the community. I get a lot of calls. And I was just like, well, and I don't or misspeak if it's not something that I'm sure of, but I think that, that they definitely need to be vetted, and it needs to be sustainable. That makes all the sense in the world, and I even seen something on there for 2.5 million.
Yeah.
So they got a baby look like what? I mean, so it's not, I just needed to know. You answered, so I can take that back as far as the lending, the grants, so I can let them know in what direction. And if anybody else calls, or if I get any questions, I can answer it and not misspeak.
Okay, my question is to piggyback off what she said. We're getting the same calls, okay? And so I have a couple of issues with it being characterized, if it will be more loan than grant, is I thought still taxes. You're getting the taxes every year. That's what sustains the 30 million. And you get the interest payments off the 30 million. We don't have 30 million for 20 years, right?
But then the issue becomes, what are we going to receive in each of those 20 years? And at this
Right,
point,
but-
no one knows.
Right, no one
Yeah.
knows, I get that, but the sustainability, this wasn't created as a lending institution, right? We're not. So if we're intending to give loans, that brings up so many other things, like, are we gonna sue people who default? Are we going to, uh, plan what the criteria are? Is the criteria gonna be different for every person who walks through the door? Are we looking for credit worthiness? Because according to the surveys, most people didn't want capital projects. Most people wanted community projects. So the people asked for 1.2 million, 10, whatever, is there going to be you don't get the money. You do not, we decide we give you a loan, you just don't get it because it's not in the purview of what this was designed for. So
Well,
how are we
then-
gonna have a criteria set for what we are going to accept? In other words, nonprofits are held to this standard, small businesses are held to this standard, or huge companies that want bonds or whatever.
Okay, you recollect at the beginning of my remarks, I indicated what this board said it was going to do. This board outlined a traditional model where there would be loans to larger developments. It also outlined a grant program aimed at nonprofits in the community and a small business which would involve loans. So this board has said grants and loans. It has authorized that. Also, at any point, as an organization that does have responsibility for our longevity and our health, if we are lending money, then we have to lend that money in a way that makes sense both for the borrower and for us. We may make below market loans. There may be any number of inventive and non-traditional things that we will do, but if we make a loan, it will be with the intention of that loan being repaid.
So
Because
we
that
prepared-
hits the sustainability mark. Now, in terms of what will happen if there is a default, also recollect that earlier we were talking about the process we were doing. We talked about how we had reached out to L Home because what we wanted to do was to partner with someone who was used to doing non-traditional lending. There are entities out there which will help to lift the capacity of a borrower so that they don't find themselves borrowing more than they need or borrowing and being in trouble. Develop terms and conditions which will aim at the borrower's success. So no, we don't see ourselves out there whole scale filing lawsuits against people because in the first instance, we're not going to force people into loans that they can't pay back. We're not doing that.
I mean, that's very optimistic, but I know that things happen. I mean, the big snowstorm we put out because we didn't have electricity for 3 or 4 days. So that's optimistic, and I get that, and I understand what the board has already agreed to. What I am suggesting and what I'm putting forth is that do we need to have any written policy or criteria for how we're going to do this? Because if we're going to do it on a case by case basis, what are we criteria gonna accept and look at to say, no, you're not getting 1.2 million. Oh, but you can get 30,000.
And that is the role of Travis and Cornerstone Engineering. The board selected that firm after competitive bidding in order to be our partner in in the lending and identifying these partners in the community. So that's part of what their role is. If you recollect the session that we had before the board voted was to foster success on both ends. No one sitting at the board table was interested and doing a predatory loan or entering into any kind of transaction that was going to be detrimental to the borrower. Okay, so that is Cornerstone's role. And I think the board members remember the presentation that Cornerstone gave on how they grow in on clients. We have a partner who's going to help us to develop.
So they devised the criteria presented to the board, then we vote on it.
Yes,
Last thing
for
is.
each of these, for each loan
for each
that is
loan.
made, the finance committee is going to know what those terms and conditions are. That's part of the approval that they'll be asked for.
My last question is, since our last meeting, we've had a change in administration. If we come up with these unique situations, prepare for any litigation from the administration on WEBs and Myorium business.
We
and
are
things of that nature.
always ready. We're
I know you're
adults.
always
We
ready.
are adult
But has that-
professionals who've
Okay.
been in the trenches a minute.
I'm not suggesting that you're not. I'm just asking, has that
You're
been
ready.
considered?
We're always ready.
So I just want to offer kind of scenario. I don't think grants and sustainability are necessarily mutually exclusive. I think there's several scenarios, where a grant could contribute to the bottom line of the TIF. Specifically, we have thousands of abandoned properties that aren't generating any tax revenue at all. They're used for a lot of developers to make very much money. But if we could turn that into a tax producing property, that increases the tax base of, the TIF area, and that comes immediately back into our account, which we can use, to sustain other stuff. So I think if something, comes to us like that, where just it's difficult to make it work, but it's oversimplified because we don't know what the taxes are in other places, but if we could bring, a company with 30 jobs over from New Albany, that's gonna, those wages and taxes and things like that. So I think, it's not a yes or no, it depends on the scenario. If we look at the outputs and the outcome, rather than just, making blanket things of, we're gonna do this or that.
Well, Mike, certainly I think what you are suggesting is consistent with the expectations from the people in the community who came to those meetings. And recall too that the board has expressed an interest in doing what it called project. That include projects like the kind that you are describing. I think many of you are aware of the mayor's announcement about what he wants to do with vacant and abandoned houses. And we have started some discussions with the mayor's office regarding how we might participate in that to help to change the face of some of the blocks that do have dilapidated homes on them. At a point where all of that fleshed out and can articulate an appropriate role that this organization might play, that will come to the finance committee with a proposal. But discussions like that are happening. And you may also be aware that there's a coalition of a nonprofit group of folks in the community who've been focusing on vacant and abandoned housing. And we have, I would say, over the past year, figure out what we can do together to address the problem that you're describing. We're hopeful that at some point, again, from that initiative, we might be able to come back to the board and to propose something. So yes, you're right. In a situation where we may be a guarantor, something of that nature, where we can help to lift. And then if there's it's an abandoned now is occupied and generating taxes, that does in fact bring some revenue back to us, and that shows sustainability.
18, 20 years or something like that. We need to look at it in a long term.
But those things are under consideration, and you should expect when we've got everything lined up, that we'll come back to the finance committee and then ultimately to the full board to talk about those things.
Then I was just gonna. So basically what you're saying is that, we put, Travis, we selected them. They're gonna, go through their process, and then it's gonna go to the financial department, and then it'll come to us.
Yes.
So it has a process that it needs to follow, correct?
And then when it goes to the finance committee, whichever board member whose neighborhood that's in, is going to be part in developing the recommendation that comes to this.
And when you say sustainability, are you talking about the WEOP being around for how long? Like most
In
tips end,
perpetuity.
but most tips end at
Yes,
some point.
we will be organized in perpetuity. Under the law, we will receive TIF funds for 20 years.
Right, and
But
then,
we are a nonprofit entity that has life. There's no end to our existence.
but there can be.
If we go broke.
Right. But I'm
Or
just, I'm not asking.
Or if we fulfill our mission in 20 years.
Right, because they can also vote to say it doesn't exist anymore,
Of
right?
course.
Okay.
I
I'm
think
just,
we're
I'm
all,
just trying to make, I'm just
we're all
making.
aware of that.
Well,
Just like
I'm-
they could say,
Okay.
extend the 20 years. That we're for 20 years. But in the meantime.
But we're gonna hope that it serves the
Without an
purpose.
intervention
Yeah.
of that nature, we will be in existence into perpetuity.
Candace, it looks like we have you back now. Appreciate the questions that have come from the table and the dialogue. I think the other piece that I'm anticipating is we're being asked in the community, and I couldn't exactly see your spreadsheet, but I think I saw like a spa and a wellness, food and beverage, the businesses that are seeking support. And then my second question, if you don't mind, to give us as much as you can today, we won't hold you to this, a forecast of the timeline of the first deals that you think will make it through the process, knowing that we've got 14 in the pipeline with 5 more headed in.
So to forecast that, it's really on the onus of the applicant to get everything in, but there is one entity, and I'm assuming that you all don't mind me sharing where the entity is from, out of the Portland neighborhood, that is just like maybe a document short of everything that's been asked for, before it will be presented to your board, to consider for funding. There's another small business that is just waiting on a MOU to say that, a area in a already established entity is set aside for them. So there's a couple in the pipeline that I would say within the next month or so that will be ready for consideration. Now, there are some that I would think, in my opinion, that will probably come to you, and you will probably more than likely, as it was stated earlier, decide possibly not to fund because these are larger organizations asking for large amount of money in grant form. And as I said, the directive that was given to us is that, that really wasn't the vein that we were going to operate in. And these are not small community organizations by no means. These are organizations that you would think would have considerable resources outside of this fund. And if you handed out millions and millions of dollars in grant forms to these large organizations, then I would say then that would be adverse to the fund being sustainable. And as far as the type of businesses, you're absolutely correct. There are so many different businesses. There's spas, there's culinary businesses, there's developers, there's tax prep, there's even a pharmacy. So there's several different businesses that can be a benefit to the community.
Any other questions? Secretary Newell?
have we given to Travis, or do we have a board resolution or discussion about using the 30 million as a corpus? Just call it that. You always want to take your corpus. Have we budgeted what we're trying to do in terms of loans, grants, the portfolio mix in any way? In terms of,
At Crow.
But Secretary, one of the things I really want to see before we do that, see what we're gonna get from the first pool from the state, you know what I mean? So that 30, I mean, hopefully we got more than that 30 to work with.
that's the answer I'm looking for, because what I'm really trying to say, I don't know if you want to approve any until you kind of figure out what's out there.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
assuming you got nothing in the TIF,
We gotta
what
see.
would you kind of loans? Questions are really building. We don't want to give anybody support that might put them in jeopardy. But if you're going to get in the lending business, you're just going to get in the lending business. And it's just is what it is. But I think at some point we've got to really figure out a portfolio, a target mix, and if that's what they're working on,
Yeah.
I think that's great. And I'll save my last question for, I'm sure it's coming up on the agenda. Anything from revenue, even if it's simply a guesstimate, because that's really and truly, pardon the expression, 30 million I thought was intended to kind of be seed capital, get us rolling. We're going to have to get something from revenue, and I guess I'm looking at Deputy Keith. I'm about ready to say, who do we need to sit down with and say enough's enough? Some sort of foundation that we're not going to hold you to anything, but we got to start doing some projections to actually make it meaningful, the work that everybody is doing in terms of what's the demand out there, what do we think that we're hearing, so that at some point we're able to respond to the community. Because just by taking in the applications, the expectations are pretty high, because I'm even getting inquiries. If I'm getting inquiries in Frankfurt, people want to know where this people start. So yeah, that was not a question. It was probably more
I just have one more question. So, Travis, it's to you. So I appreciate you looking at these, applications to be able to identify, whether they're huge, small. And then another thing that I wanted to know, in the criterias, are we assuring that, knows that they check every box?
I'm
Right.
sorry, Tammy, you broke up right at the end. I apologize.
I'm sorry. I said, thanks for looking at it in
Oh,
the
no,
same lenses
yeah.
that you are, because, it could be somebody that comes in and check every box, but they're not they really already got the money, but they check every box.
Mhm.
Everything that they need, it's really not, somebody who's already in the community,
Mhm.
already
Mhm.
thriving in the community, but it may just be somebody that said, hey, I want to do business. I want to do it in the West End. Let me use Parkland just for an example. Parkland is thriving. I want my business to be over there. Here, let me find this, and they check every box because they may have another business over here. Have we identified, because they do check, how long have they been doing this? Are they already there in the neighborhood? Do we have people that are truly invested in the neighborhoods that they represent? Hopefully we do, that they can identify, oh yeah, I know them, they've been doing business in this area, or they lived in this area for years, or, you know what I'm saying? Just to put, a new set of eyes jumping into, like he said.
And that's why we keep talking about the participation initially in that finance committee meeting. That neighborhood rep will be there at the table, and anyone else who's interested can be there at the table. That committee will develop a recommendation that will come to this full body for discussion. And when it is presented, the questions that you raised also be put on the table for discussion. Because recollect when Travis and Cornerstone were talking to us about developing that application, what material do they need to put forward? The relationship between that entity and the neighborhood and the value that they want to bring to the neighborhood has to be outlined and explained in that proposal. Getting us to review this or not, as a neighborhood rep, you'll get an opportunity to say, I don't know these people, I don't know where they came from. So it's Travis will come with a recommendation, but the decision-making is up to this body.
And Tammy, to your point, man, that neighborhood rep, say they don't know, but hey, they go back and check with it, but you know,
Yes.
so everybody will, so you will. That's why it's so vital to have that neighborhood rep at the meeting. So they can make sure that every box is checked is really checked. You know what I mean?
And we also ask for letters of support from the community for each one of these projects as well. So we provide our recommendations, in our reports, we provide a narrative concerning these organizations' history, their community give back, what they've done for the community, and then who in the community is supporting this initiative.
Let me say just this one, this is of course a public meeting. All of these proposals are preliminary at this point. So the information that Travis is able to give to you in this public meeting now are not, voluminous. He can't show you their financials or anything of that nature. But when he makes that recommendation and it's ready for decision-making, privy to all of the, it will be part of the information you'll sift through in order to be able to make a good recommendation.
And let me just add, Laura, that the access, anyone who wants access to the drive that has the general information that he's summarizing, let me know and we'll set you up so that you can actually go in and look for yourself. But again, it won't have that level of detail. It will answer some of the questions that today, the types of businesses, their application, you can see all that.
Are they asking for a grant or a loan?
A grant or a loan. And so applicants have to have confidence in our process to know that the information that has to be kept confidential is being kept confidential. And I think we can all respect that.
You know, they put Urban Lake down as one to have access to the drive. Thank you.
Yeah.
I said Urban Lake, I didn't
Yeah,
say Commission.
Yeah.
Anything else for Travis this evening? This was a great conversation to help us all get familiar with the ins and outs of the process. Travis, thank you for your work and your leadership. Looking forward to hearing more as we move forward.
Absolutely. Happy to be of service, and thank you all very much. You have a
Travis.
wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you so much.
That
Just
concludes.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me hold the agenda.
Absolutely. That was all very
Attend to,
important.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. We'll move along then to our committee report outs, and I'm on deck, so I'll give you some updates coming from board development. We do have several seats that we are still seeking to fill on this board. One of which is the foundation/philanthropy seat. We do have a prospect that we're speaking to, looking for a prospect. So I just for that particular seat, if you have an individual donor or funder that you think may benefit from learning more about the partnership that we could reach out to and start that conversation, I would welcome your referrals. So that's the foundation or philanthropy seat. Our board development committee recently convened, I believe it was last week, to meet with a prospect for the advocacy seat. This is the seat formerly AACP. Interviewed a wonderful candidate. The second candidate, unfortunately, due to some family illness, had to withdraw her interest in the board. So we are seeking a second candidate, and we have someone who's interested that's getting ready to apply. We're going to reconvene the committee to interview the second person for that particular seat. So we anticipate coming back to you with a recommendation for a new board member at our March meeting. Advocacy seat. Unfortunately, we have experienced some turnover in our Simmons College seat. If you're not familiar with the fact that Dr. Rick Smith has resigned from his role at Simmons and is taking on a role outside of the community. And so Laura has been in conversation with Reverend Cosby to seek their candidate for that particular seat, which leads me to the neighborhood seat. So I want to give you this update. I invite your input forward. You may recall I told you that we've not been successful yet in recruiting nominators using the historic process that began when we welcomed our current neighborhood reps, where we had nominators from each neighborhood vet interested applicants and then send to us their top few candidates for the board development committee to interview and to nominate to this body. We've only had, after several months of outreach, both social media, I know Dr. Gabe have all been helping do what is 4 neighborhoods that current seats are ready to be renewed, with 3 right around the corner that will be up for renewal in March. So we're really looking at 7 of our 9. So we have fanned out and increased the level of communication into those neighborhoods. Despite all of those efforts, we have only 3 nominator applicants. So what we discussed and what we shared with you at our last meeting is that enough of a pipeline to activate that process by February 1st, knowing that we're really interested in making some decisions to have a fully constituted board this year, that we would take matters more into the hands of the board development committee. And by that, I mean that we would, instead of issuing a call for nominators, we would issue a call for applicants to the board, and we would start sorting those ourselves and come to you with a nomination for each of those neighborhood reps. So we're shifting. Heather, Dr. Gabe, Dr. Wade, to now say to the community through earned media, social media, that we're going to start seeking applications with a March 1st deadline. So we're going to use the month of February to double down. And so I invite you in your networks to communicate that we're going to open up the portal so that we don't have to funnel everything through nominators, that anyone who's interested from those 7 neighborhoods can apply to online or in person applications, and there's digital forms, so that by our March meeting, we're hoping that we can come forward with a slate of candidates representing the neighborhood 7 seats, the advocacy seat, the foundation seat, and then we'll have a disposition on the Simmons College seat. Let me pause and get any questions or comments. Dr. Jones, did I see you wanting to jump in here?
I was gonna say, how heavy a lift it is to fill all of these seats and to do all of the work associated with that. So I appreciate y'all.
What are the 7 neighborhoods?
Alicia, put me on the spot. So we have, where in my notes are they? Do you have the spreadsheet handy, Rita?
It'd probably easier to do the 3 that aren't, since it's so.
I
Yeah, that's what
have
I'm
to
trying
still
think.
look at
I'll
the
email you on
spreadsheet.
that. Yeah, let me just confirm them.
Yeah,
Because I know we have 4 of them on the board, Shawnee, Kaplan, Chip, Chips, Portland.
up for renewal.
So I'll
Yeah.
tell you the ones that are,
Thank you.
yeah. I'll send that out to the whole board. just
That'd
so
be
people
great.
know.
So everybody's kind of thinking about those particular
Yeah.
neighborhoods to make sure we're amplifying this message. That would be super helpful. Okay, that's all I have. I'm gonna turn it, oh, sorry, did I see Mike? Sorry.
So are there application links or what do we send people to promote?
Now that Dr. Wade and her team are official, we had our first meeting last week, I think, and so that's top of topic too for them to get involved at a higher level with communication in the 9 neighborhoods.
We can email you all a link with the list of the board or the
Yeah.
neighborhoods rather that we're seeking. Just embed the link.
Yes. Question is, if we're seeking applications, like, how do they act on that? So we can promote it, but if they don't know who to go to or what website, what the process for applying is, then
We can link to the
That's a
digital
shocking.
form, and then we can direct them if they need a physical paper. We can direct them to this office location so that they can fill it out in person.
And some have the
There is
website.
a digital
have the website already in terms of the communication that's currently set up on the website. But not enough. And so,
That was for the nominator, right?
Historically, we've had the application though for board nominees also available online.
Okay, so that is available
Yes.
and we can link to that. Okay.
and I'll make sure we'll,
Send that to the board. That's-
yeah, we'll get all that straightened out so that we can get that to
Got
you.
that. Thank
so that
you.
there's no confusion.
And on board development, Chris, did I miss anything? All right, moving on, Dr. Jones, you've got community engagement.
Yes, I will be relatively brief and will lean on my colleagues for anything that I missed. So in our last meeting, the big high level thing that came out of it was that we are in the process of scheduling a community engagement. One of the knowledge is that prior to now, we've had many different obligations that we have had to meet as a board. And we have been kind of jumping from thing to thing as a committee to make sure that we can fulfill those obligations. And now we agreed that it is a good idea for us to be able to take a small step back and map things out for the year, so that we are clear on, one, the obligations that the board has for the coming year. It be critical. We also have the opportunity to simply plan what it looks like for us to maintain engagement with the community over time. We have our colleague Heather here, and we want to be able to ensure that we are planning out far enough to make use of her skills and time, because up to this point, we haven't been using her as effectively as we can be. So those are our top priorities right now. We've been discussing a lot of things in our community we want to achieve, but we're hoping that this retreat can be an opportunity for us to map those out more efficiently and more effectively, to be able to bring those things back to the board. I think that is the big item that we discussed. Heather, is there anything you want to share?
No, I mean, I can give quick updates that I have. Just some small updates. I'm at 9 neighborhood trips, 3 outliers currently. I've got 1 tour down and 3 that are pending. And I've reached out and spoken with a couple of nonprofit organizations that are interested in collaborating with the partnership, or even possibly receiving funding from the partnership in some capacity, but just support, period. That came directly from the community engagement report that was come together from the residents specifically. Say everything.
Thank you all for your work.
Okay, that's it.
Great. All right, thank you. William, you're up with the
Thank you.
finance report.
We did have a robust discussion with Travis, so that's good. But, basically what we need to do here is look over the financials from October, November, and December. As you can see, though, we really haven't met, has really remained stable due to the income that has been produced from the interest from the Republic Bank and the Stockyards account. There has been a few expenses, 30,000 some odd dollars to Memphis that, have not been reoccurring. So typically what we've seen are just the reoccurring expenses that have been happening throughout the months. Like I said, the finance really from fine-tune comb. So any other board member that has seen these, do they have any questions in relation to these financials? If not, we just need, do I need to do these individually? Can I do them all together?
Your choice.
I mean, like I said, man, but at the finance committee went through these, in December, and we answered a lot of questions and made sure, like I said, I gave you some highlights. So if everybody has seen these, I would like to do these with one swoop, as far as just accepting the financials from October, November, and December. So do I have a motion? So
Second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
There is now Like, I think, I know you have been talking to revenue guys, and if you can give us kind of a update from that point and any other point that, what you thinking?
Hot seat, Chip.
Quite directly, I mean, we don't have the numbers. So, we have reached out to express that the board, well, let me put it this way. I reached out on behalf of you all, asking for the numbers and respectfully need them, and that there's planning that needs to be done. So, I can't do any more than that. Where we are with it, have other thoughts, but can discuss it later, I guess.
I mean, Secretary, this is really not anything, working with the Arena Authority, I mean, they give us the number when they, we can push. So, I mean, it's better just really to, call and, and work with them, and they have great relationships. So I think that, we should hopefully get it soon. Tammy, you have your hand up? Oh, okay. Okay.
Wait back. I just wait back.
Well,
The
Don't
only
have
reason
a
I'm
question
bringing
at
it
all.
up is I've had people ask me, and I say, well, you get really a good handle on, this is a unique test, so I understand all the time involved, but there's not a lot you can do other than what you've already done until the numbers come in, and I don't know how, Chip, I mean, I don't want to upset anybody. We work with revenue a lot. If I'm going to upset the apple cart, but I wouldn't mind at least reaching out and saying, I know it's difficult, I know it's complicated, but even some sort of non-binding scoping out what you think the future could look like over the next couple of years, at least might help us come in and do some plans. Because when I say scoping, a non-binding, is it 1 million? Is it 5 million, 10 million, you think? Is it a
Yeah.
concern? And this is what I've been hearing through the grapevine and folks I've been dealing out with is it's so complicated concerns that the way it was done, there may not be a big bump out there. And that to me is still, well, then you need to be, as a revenue cabinet, sharing with us at least what you're finding and what the scope is. Not, I'm a non-voting, supposed to be keep quiet member, which I don't know how to do. I know how not to vote, but I don't know how to keep quiet.
But you're exactly right. And like I said, David, you remember we had to, at first was too big, redefine it. We had to shrink it. So there could be adjustments and things that have to be made to do that. But
We need something from them first. I mean, I'm a pushy guy myself, to be quite honest, but, I'm just telling you, I have nothing for you right now.
Is it up to the apple cart to at least just inquire unofficially and say kind of where you are? Because what they really could be, or I'd like to hear red flags that maybe they're finding relative to their number crunching, because what year was this organization put?
2021, May 2021.
And the base year is 22.
Yeah, the base year is 2022.
And is it 2025 already?
First month.
The first
I'm just asking
installment.
if you think it upsets the apple cart if I use my title. I mean, I have nothing to offer, but I'm calling and just.
I think it's a great idea.
I'm all for it.
I'm a non-voting, keep my mouth, but I will make that input.
thank you.
You okay with that, Keith?
Keith says, sure, you can.
Friday, so.
Any other questions or concerns? Chip, you got anything else?
I do whatever my cabinet secretaries tell me to do. Any of them.
We don't tell anybody what to do, but we're gonna.
At some point, we need to move it.
Well, I mean, I think that that's professionally, I think that I really think, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing, this is the reason I would like to get some understanding so they can communicate. We understand why it's taking a long time, but we also understand some of the language and concerns. And so does that temper what you think is the scalability of the short? that's where I come from, is there's a lot of speculation that I visit with folks that think that it could be this huge, big gargantuan, and I understand the way it was cast with COLA and what they're looking at in terms of actual net increase, that maybe it's not gonna be as large as some people may have thought.
And just from, I don't know, experience, usually these people thought you could quickly. If it's not, you may get a little bit slower. So just maybe. So I don't, good news travels fast, but when you're not getting as good a news as you thought, it may not travel as fast. But I don't know that, but I would like to know.
I was raised to always be careful when you call a revenuer, but I will call the revenue cabinet and be very polite and try to find out what you want.
Thank you.
Comments, questions? Yes, sir.
There were the 3 agreements that were negotiated, the board delegated back in November. And at the finance committee, we talked about those agreements being shared with the board.
We're setting up the portal for that as well. So they will be in the portal. Those who want to see them, just let me know. I know Mike does. If there's anybody else who wants to know, we'll set you up as well.
Do we have a timeline on that?
Probably, what's today? Hopefully by the end of the week here, Mike. We just get things together here with board meeting, but we can do that because I think tomorrow we'll be able to set you up for the cornerstone stuff. And so we'll try to knock both of those out at the same time. It's just a matter of getting your emails in there. Okay?
Yeah, and just as a reminder, from Finance Committee, it will be Crow and Nimbus. There is
Yeah.
not a finalized agreement
Right.
with El.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's just the two.
Yeah.
Is that?
And then easier thing, Mike, I may just go ahead and, because we have them in our Adobe, the signed contracts, so I might just share that with you and then I'll get it set up for the rest of the board. Some board members don't necessarily want that level of detail, but if you do, just anytime I know you do, and I'll get you going with that.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. If there's no other questions, the Crow already spoke theirs, and then I think we're good.
Thank you. Okay, we look forward to hearing how your outreach goes, Secretary. Thank you.
Yes, can't wait.
Can't wait.
Do you have a timeline, may I ask?
As he's walking to his car.
I'll be trying to get us.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Liaise in revenue first, and then I'll make a few other inquiries.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna subtly go through this first.
Thank you. Is there any old business to come before the board tonight?
Let's see, man, Dr. Craddock's been kind of quiet. You good up there, Dr. Craddock?
Yeah, I am. I appreciate it. Sorry for my lateness.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Any new business? Then we are going to excuse our guests because I'm seeking a motion now to go into closed executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810(1)(c), which is the exception from the Open Meetings Act for discussions of proposed or pending litigation against or on behalf of the Weston public agents. May I move to executive session now?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We'll give Rita a
Yeah,
moment.
Jennifer, I need to go
take
back on.
care of those on the screen.
Yeah, those that are on the screen will need to sign off for that. And then when we come back, we're just coming back to adjourn, right?
That's right. We'll
That's
just
right.
come out of
So-
closed session simply to adjourn.
Yeah, so,
And this won't take, should not take too long.
okay, because. Let me see. Just make sure everybody's off. I can't see what there is. That's me.
Progress.
That's. All right, let's look at the participant. One attendee left, Matt. I'm gonna need you to exit, please. We're headed into closed session. And we're only coming back in to adjourn. So that really concludes the meeting. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm just, they have them anyway, right? Amy? Turn your recorder off.
Sound like his little bow tie.
They're all.
Okay, he's
So
out.
Heather,
Let me turn off the-
Oh,
Staff.
no. I think
That's me.
executive staff should
I'm
stay,
done.
but that should be it. I mean,
Okay.
it's nothing. Just to. Plan.
All right.
Okay. No, that I'm leaving it, not coming back. But you're gonna come back and adjourn.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, thank you, Felicia.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hang on.
You want me here for it now?
Yeah, I think it ought to be, you do what you.
I'm not understanding why this is different. It's me off, but I'm supposed to be able, he's gone. And so. Recording without turning everybody up, without turning them up.
Don't start.
Pause recording.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
We are now back in open session and I will motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Oh, thank you.
Just, we need to state that no.
Oh, yes,
Oh, thank
that's
you.
right.
There was no action taken in our closed session. Thank you. And now I will motion to adjourn. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for
Thank
coming
you. Good to
tonight.
see you, Kevin, Dr.
Bye,
Craddock.
Dr. Craddock.
Jeff.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye.
Hey, you could have done your special session.